15 minutes. He's got pictures to prove this actually happened. So I said, all right, tell them a squirrel story. I have no idea how that has anything to do with Ambit, but they'll think it's funny. And then on the way here, I realized actually it has a lot to do with Ambit. So let me tell you, and then I'll come back to how I think that it relates to what we do. Because a couple weeks ago, I'm in a meeting with Jerry and Lori and a couple other people, and my phone kept ringing. And normally I'm in a meeting with them, I don't answer the phone, but it just kept on and kept on. I finally pulled it out of my pocket and I saw it was Leslie, and I said, well, let me step out and take it, it must be important. And so I answered the phone, and she said, we have a squirrel in our bedroom. She didn't even say hi. Skipped right to we have a squirrel in our bedroom. And I just sat there for a minute because I never had a call like that before. And just waited to see if there were more. And she was quiet and I was quiet, and finally I said, do you want me to come help you get the squirrel out of the bedroom, or were you just calling to let me know? And she said, yes, I need you to come home and help me get the squirrel out of the bedroom. So I told Sherry, I said, I'll be back in a little while. And so I asked him, I was like, have you ever had a squirrel in your house? And he said, no, I don't think so. But we've had them in the yard, and we trapped them in these little traps, and maybe the hardware store will have a live squirrel trap. And then so I went and told some people on my staff. I said, I had a meeting I had to cancel. I said, I'm going to go home and try to get a squirrel out of my house. And it was amazing how many people, when I told that on the way out, had a piece of advice for me. It was real uncanny. Apparently that happens all the time. It's never happened to me, but when I started saying I'm going home to get a squirrel, people were, mostly not shocked, and they had lots of advice. And so about after the third or fourth person gave me some tip for how to get the squirrel out of my house, I finally started asking them, have you ever actually done that? Because there was all kinds of advice from, opening the window, putting fruit on the sill, to, it was just a long litany. I had about a 10-minute drive to my house, and I had to show up with a plan. And so I had all this conflicting information I was trying to sort through on that short drive home. And so I called Leslie on the way home, and I said, where's the squirrel at? And she said, it's in our bedroom. I shut the door, and I put a towel underneath the door. It's trapped in our bedroom. I said, okay, don't do anything until I get home. And of course she did. As soon as I got home, I was looking for her. I'm like, hey, I'm home, where are you at? And then I can't find her anywhere. So finally I call her on her phone, and I said, where are you? She goes, I'm in the bedroom. And I'm like, okay. So I open the door, come in, shut it where the towel's still down there. And I look, and the window's open, and there's like some apples and a banana. She's been Googling it too. And I said, well, how do you know if it's still in here? And she just looked at me. And I was like, I told you not to do anything before I got home. One of us has to watch the window while the other one, puts the fruit out and tries to scare the squirrel towards the window. Or how do we know if it left? And then she just looked at me with this panicked look like, oh, I don't know, I didn't read that part. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to get a broom and just sweep we know it's in the bedroom or our bathroom or the closet. It's got to be in one of these three confined places if it hadn't already left. And so, man, I go through the whole thing with the broom, and she's sitting there standing up on a little stool watching this whole thing, taking numerous pictures probably. And I've got a broom and a flashlight, and I'm going through the house. She didn't say how big the squirrel was. She just said there was a squirrel. And I've seen some pretty scary looking squirrels. And if they're scary outside, inside your house, it's going to be really bad. So I'm going through there, I'm going through our closet, I'm going through the bathroom, finally I'm laying down on the floor with a flashlight looking under the bed, under everything. No squirrel anywhere. So, I'm a guy, I'm starting to think, you really see a squirrel? And so I, in the nicest way I could, I looked back at her and I said, honey, are you sure? She said, yes. It was a squirrel. It was this tall. It was right on the floor there looking at us. And our dogs were sound asleep on the bed. So I said, okay. So I said, well, we've got the door open. It's probably already, or got the window open, it's probably already gone, right? But let's just wait and give it a little time. If it's hiding somewhere that I didn't see it, it'll go on out the door. That's at least that's what it said on Google. So we go sit in the living room for about 45 minutes, an hour, and we're just sitting there, you know, kind of, and finally I'm like, you know, it's had plenty of time, and by then I've called 3 or 4 more people for advice, and even the animal control for the city of Dallas. And I got this really nice lady who basically said, is it contained? And I said, yeah, it's contained. And she said, is it alive? And I was like, well, yeah, I'm pretty sure the last time we saw it, it was alive. I'm assuming it's still alive. And she said, is it rabid? And I'm like, oh man, I hadn't even thought about that. How do you know if a squirrel's rabid or not? I mean, the thing came in our house. And she did all these other lists of things, and I realized about halfway through the questionnaire that I've already failed, that she's trying to assess how important this is on the calendar that she has, and I realized after about the 4th or 5th question, I'm way down on the list of people who are going to get any help. She's got like a lion loose over in South Dallas. I'm way down on the list. So I finally, after about an hour, I said, Les, I'm going to go back in there and check and see if this thing is gone. And so I walk in the room and I look over at the window. Fruit is just totally mauled. I mean, just bits and pieces of apple and banana all over the place. And I'm like, phew. So it took, and it was all on the windowsill. So it's like, the thing got up on the windowsill, I had to go on out the door. I went over there, shut the window, like, oh. And the thing is, I'd had these shoes on that were hurting my feet. And so before I even went to tell Leslie that the squirrel's out of the house, I go to the closet through our bathroom to change my shoes. And as soon as I walk in the bathroom, I see that her robe that's hanging on this little hook go. Now I'm sitting there and the shoes are still hurting my feet. But now I've got it trapped in the bathroom. And I call her up and I said, okay, I got some good news and bad news. And she said, well, give me the bad news first. And I said, the squirrel is still in the house. It's in your robe. And she said, what is the good news? And I said, the good news is I have a plan to get it out of the house, but I need you to come watch the squirrel for me. She was like, So I was like, well, I said, look, I've got a net that I used when I fly fish to net fish, and I think I can get that net on that squirrel and get it out of the house. And she said, well, I'll just go get the net. And I was like, you'll never find it. It's ridiculous how much camping stuff I have, and it's all like boxed up and neatly stacked in a garage, and it would take 3 people and a map to find it. I said, there's no way that you'll find it. You're going to have to come here and watch the squirrel, and I'll run out and get it real quick. And so she comes in there, assumes her position on the stool again, and has a phone in one hand and a broom in the other hand. I said, I'll be right back. So I come back a few minutes later with the net. She gets out of the bathroom. It's just me and the squirrel now. And every time I take a step closer to the robe, does that, and I take a step back, and we sit there for a minute, and by this time I'm thinking, okay, if this thing were rabid, it would have already kind of leapt at me, I hope. But I realized I have no gloves or facial protection of any kind. And all I'm thinking of is that movie with Chevy Chase. Squirrel comes out of the tree. I'm thinking this is not going to be good. But maybe I'll get something for Ambit out of it when it's all said and done. And so, after all of this hysteria, I finally take a couple more steps. The rope shakes one more time. Then the towels next to it on the rack start shaking. I realize, okay, he's out of the rope now. He's hanging on the back of one of these towels. And so I reach over there and I grab the towel and I pull it back. And it's sitting there and it's holding on to this towel. It's just looking at me. It is terrified. And it's about this big. She kept saying, I was like, that's a kangaroo. Little baby squirrel. I get the net, I lay it over the towel, I pull the towel down off the rack, and I walk the thing outside and I let it go. And we're done, crisis averted, and I got a squirrel out of my house. I don't believe it. Just people don't believe this is a true story. We actually have some pictures of this capture and release. This was the squirrel. You can see back there in the mirror, Leslie taking the picture. Now she's in there all heroic. Nowhere to be found when that squirrel's getting netted. And then I had another one that showed me letting it go, but they said they couldn't get it up. But anyway, there's the perpetrator. And so it's a funny story. And she said, tell them the squirrel story. And I was like, yeah, I'll tell them the squirrel story. And then I realized halfway here, these people are all on Ambit. They don't care about a squirrel. They need something that's going to help them in their business. That's really why y'all are here this weekend. And I started thinking about it. I was like, you know what? I totally just got trained in Ambit, catching that squirrel. And I just thought, I've thought about this capture story for weeks now because it was pretty exhilarating and I felt very heroic afterwards. But I realized tonight in preparing for this that there were a couple things that I learned that I think is really why you're here this weekend. And it's really about this business, and I think that you can learn some lessons from this. If you've decided to join Ambit, I mean, you've made a decision now that this is going to be something that you pursue. It kind of is like having a squirrel in your bedroom. You have to take it seriously. I mean, you can't ignore the fact that you joined and just, hope something will happen. You certainly can't turn your back on it. But more than that, if you want to be successful at it, you better find somebody else who's done it and has a system and follow the system. And I thought about that on the way here tonight. That squirrel would still be in my house if I were the one trying to figure out on my own how to get it out of there. But I finally did get a hold of somebody who said, oh yeah, that happens to me all the time. Here's what you do. I'm like, you have extracted a squirrel from your house. Yes, I have. How did you do it? I started with fruit, but I had a net for a backup plan. And all of a sudden, I'm looking at this thing now, and it's just a problem to solve. And real quickly, on the way to my house that day, I got trained by an expert who told me exactly what to do. And I didn't get to the house and decide to ignore that and come up with my own plan, even though it was very uncomfortable for me. And even though I had never done it before, I just did what they told me to do. Squirrel done, wife happy, everything's good. and guys, listen, our Ambit business is just like that. Y'all are all in it. You know some of this stuff, but you can't hear it too many times. You're here this weekend because either you're new in the business, you've never really been to a big training, or you've been in for a while, and you need to remember something that after you've had a little success, sometimes we forget. Because I guarantee you, a squirrel capper that does that professionally, after a while, the whole fruit net thing gets old. Yeah, it works, but there's got to be a better way to do it. They start trying to figure out new and inventive ways of getting the squirrel out. Some probably in disaster, some probably in people not being very happy with the mess that's left. I mean, there's just all kinds of things. But if you've got something that works and you know that it works, why wouldn't you do it? And why wouldn't you do it every time? You know, this business really is not about coming up with something on your own that's new. This is only really about following the system. The reason that Ambit's been so successful and we've grown faster than any direct selling company probably in history is because we do one thing over and over and over and over and over again, and we all do it the same way. Isn't it amazing when you get a whole group of people that do the same thing the same way, what kind of results you can get? And so you're here this weekend either because you don't know that and you need to learn how to do it, or you have done it but you can get better at it, or you've gotten so good at it that you've stopped doing it. But it doesn't matter why you're here, you need to hear what you're going to hear this weekend again. You're going to hear from some of the top people in our company who are the best Ambit squirrel catchers that there are. And none of them are squirrely. So you can believe everything that they're telling you. They've done it themselves. They've got the results to prove it. They're going to improve your business. I'm excited that you're here. I appreciate you taking the time out over your weekend, especially one that's beautiful. You could be doing anything that you want it to be, that you're here making a commitment to your Ambit business. And I promise you, if you'll listen and learn from the people that you're going to hear this weekend, you'll go back into whatever hometown you came here from and you put that into action, and your business will explode as a result of it if you just commit it to memory and then put it into action. So thank you guys for being here. Let him talk to you for a few minutes, and then I know we've got a Q&A that we want to get to. Guys, the other reason that Ambit has grown as fast as it has and been as successful as it has is we have a great CEO. Jerry, I've gotten to know him now over the last 8 years. I've seen him in when things were going great. I've seen him when we've had challenges. I've seen him when things were tense around the office. And what I've learned about him is he's just unflappable. And he doesn't let all the good press inflate him, and he doesn't let the challenges bother him either. He's just a steady hand at the wheel. He's in there every day working hard to make sure that Ambit is around for many, many years so that you guys can count on the hard work that you're putting in today to create that residual income for you years in the future. And I'm really glad to also call him my friend, our Chief Executive Officer, Mr. Jerry Thompson.